We have just completed our purchase of a condo here in Phuket. In this video, we'll walk you through how we looked for a place, made an offer, and how we navigated the actual purchase. This is Khaki Shorts, where we cover travel, food, and just utter nonsense. We bought a 3-bed, 3-bath condo on Cape Panwai here in Phuket. It was a bit of a hair-raising experience. We bought and sold multiple homes in the US. Sarah was actually a real estate agent for a while, so we're pretty familiar with the process. But it's a whole different experience here in Thailand. Our condo was purchased as a foreign freehold, which means we technically own it, and only a certain amount of condo units hold this status. There are other ways to buy a property and hold title, but this one is the most clear-cut when it comes to ownership. This process is also different for single-family homes that sit directly on land. Foreigners cannot legally own land here, so you have to go about it a different way for those. All right, let's get started. How to find a property. Finding property here is a bit of a challenge. They don't have a centralized MLS system like they do in the US, so there's not one source you can visit to look. A lot of it is searching online for Facebook posts in Marketplace and specific groups such as Phuket Rent and Sell Property. It's hard to search on Marketplace if you're not in the country or don't have a VPN you can set for Thailand. There are also individual real estate companies that have their own listings on their own websites, such as Fazwaz, but it does not have comprehensive listings, and they all have a bad habit of not pulling properties once they've been sold. So you can inquire about a property and find that it was sold months ago. Unlike in the US, you're not contractually bound to use only one agent during your search. Agents here are not required to be licensed or insured, so fully depending on one agent wouldn't be prudent if they're not good. Anyone can be an agent for places for sale or rent. There are definitely scams involved with some of them, so you have to be super careful and diligent about who you send money to. Also, the agents listing properties don't always work for the seller directly. They can take any property, make a listing, then contact the seller to show the property or go to them with an offer. Because we knew what complex we wanted to be in by now, Sarah did a Google search on the condo complex name. Sarah actually found our condo listed directly on a real estate agent's website. It wasn't listed anywhere else, and it was actually still available. We got lucky that the seller's agent, Eric with Pulse Realty, was American and represented the seller directly. He works for an actual real estate agency, so we felt a little safer going through him. Another note is that since there's no FMLS, you really can't use comps to find out how much the property might be worth or how much it sold for previously. Different agents listing the same property could have vastly different asking prices. But we really liked this unit, and based on the asking price of smaller units in the complex, this was an extremely good price. Making an offer. First step was having the agent make a verbal offer to the seller, which he accepted. You have to be careful because the agent could be working both sides. It's not like in the US where the buyer and seller each have their own agent to prevent any conflict of interest. We were told until we placed the deposit down and signed a contract, nothing was locked in. The agent wrote a reservation agreement, or RA. We decided to hire a Thai lawyer to cover our butts. He went over the RA and made some changes to make sure all of our bases were covered. The RA was then signed by the seller and ourselves. What made this process even harder in our case was that the seller was British and lived in Hong Kong. We were American but live in Thailand where the property was. Needless to say, there was a lot of back and forth to get the RA signed. For this property, we offered 4.4 million Thai baht, or about 133,000 US, which is what he had it listed for. In the RA, we agreed on 200,000 baht as earnest money. We scrambled to get this cash together in Thailand. Here's a note. It really was supposed to be wired in from overseas. I'll explain that part a bit later. Once we had deposited the money into a holding account with Pulse Realty, we had our lawyer investigate the property and perform due diligence. We just wanted to make sure there were no outstanding debts and to make sure that the person we were going to buy it from actually owned the property. Lawyers here in Thailand are not cheap, but they are definitely less expensive than in the US. We had some friends here who had used our lawyer before, so he came highly recommended. It was well worth the money to make sure everything was investigated. It was written into the RA that if our lawyer had found any issues, that the money would be returned to us and the sale canceled. Sales and purchase agreement. After the due diligence came back clean, the next step was a sales and purchase agreement. A lawyer for our real estate agent wrote the SPA, and then our lawyer went over it and suggested changes. The SPA covered the agreed upon purchase price, any reason the sale could be canceled, and exact amounts of final payment to be deposited to. After being amended a couple of times after some back and forth, it was signed by us and the seller. We had a bit of a holdup because the seller had 2 physical documents he needed to bring to Thailand, and he also had to sign a power of attorney so a lawyer here could complete the sale after he went back to Hong Kong. Moving money to Thailand. Okay, so now you know how much money you need for the purchase. For a foreign freehold, you need to show that the money came from outside the country. We really should have wired over the 200K Thai baht deposit instead of using cash on hand. I guess I should take a minute to explain foreign freehold. This only applies to condominium complexes. The Thai government has a law in place that condo complexes must be at least 51% owned by Thais and 49% can be owned by foreigners. If a condo unit was originally sold as a foreign freehold, then it will remain so. If the condo is in the 51%, there are loopholes around this by buyers creating a Thai company with a Thai citizen and buying the condo through the company. We know people who own their condo like this, but it's a little scary for us. If the Thai person you are in business with gets into trouble with the law, the government could actually seize your property. We felt much safer with our condo being a foreign freehold, which we will own outright. Another option is you can buy condos or landed properties with a leasehold. This is where you lease the land from a Thai owner, are allowed to build or use the land for 30 years. Then he can renew the lease, but we like to imagine worst case scenarios where you're not able to renew. What happens then? Not for us. Okay, so back to the money. We did a wire transfer of more than the purchase price because we'll be doing renovations and we'll need extra money for that. On the transfer, we had them add notes that this money was being brought into the country for the purchase of our specific condo unit. Once the transfer went through, we went to the bank with our lawyer and he got a cashier's check, some cash for taxes and fees, and, this is very important, a letter from our Thai bank saying the amount of our funds and where and when it was transferred. I'm glad our lawyer was with us so he can converse with the bank officials in Thai to make sure everything was done properly. Also, the foreign funds letter is in Thai, so instead of relying on Google Translate, our lawyer could make sure it was worded properly. Completing the sale. Once everything is in place, the sale has to be completed at the Phuket land office. In the US, the buyer and seller would show up at a lawyer's office or a title company, depending on which state the property is in, but here everything goes through the land office. The seller had a power of attorney, so he did not need to be here. We had heard the process of the land office can be a bit grueling, so we signed a POA for our attorney so he could go in our place. After having to sign a few more documents and re-sign because my signature didn't quite match my passport signature close enough, our attorneys met at the land office to finish all the paperwork. After it was all done, we were delivered our papers, which included the chinote, which is almost like a title deed that passes from owner to owner, the blue book, which is a book for the owner of the property, and a letter from the land office showing that we had purchased the property and legally owned it. The chinote was actually in pretty good condition for being at least 14 years old. Whew, we hit a few barriers and roadblocks along the way, but it was well worth our money to have a lawyer on our side. To review the RA, the SPA, go to the bank with us for the cashier's check and foreign funds letter, plus get everything together and go to the land office, cost us 46,000 Thai baht, or a little less than $1,400 US. Well worth the price to make sure everything was kosher. The condo itself is about 15 years old, and the seller had not been living there. It had been closed up for years. We're pretty satisfied with our unit. It hit almost everything on our wish list. And yes, we've heard people say buy, don't rent. Okay, wait, stop. Reverse that. Actually, most people say to rent, not to buy. Back to the video. But the rental prices are bumping up right now, and we have certain needs due to Sarah's 86-year-old mother, like elevator access, a single story, 2+ bedroom, 2+ bath, etc., that would make finding suitable rental units difficult. Constantly relocating an 86-year-old would also have not been ideal. We're mentally prepared to lose money on this in the future, but in the meantime, it will be our home. We've decided to make some updates to it, and our contractor started demo only a couple of days after closing. We'll definitely be making some videos about how to deal with the contractors here and some of the ways construction and renovation is vastly different than the US. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped you get a little insight onto how to buy condominiums here in Thailand. At least that's how we did it. Be sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button and bell icon so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos about our condo renovation and our daily life in Thailand.